Hi, I'm Julie Lawson. I'm the president and CEO at the Victim Advocacy Center in St. Louis. Victim Advocacy Center actually was established in 1972 as Aid for Victims of Crime. And that makes us the oldest victim service agency in the nation, which is a wonderful legacy to have here in St. Louis. We were the first to provide services to any and all victims of crime, from identity theft to homicide and everything in between. We continue to be the only one in our area providing services that we provide. And that started with a few hundred victims in 1972, and now we serve 13,000 a year. So we have grown quite a bit in 42 years. And our programming has expanded from very basic advocacy to include the counseling that we do in terms of mental health care, and also a very coordinated domestic violence program that helps women either file police reports or get orders of protection against their abusers in the court systems. And so those are some of the newer programs that we've added in the past 10 years. My job here is to make sure that the day-to-day operations run well, that the people who are on the front line doing the services have the money they need to do that, the resources that they need, the space, and that really the community understands what we do. So one of my roles is to make sure that the media is respectful of victims, and that I'm working constantly with them to really be responsible in their reporting and make sure that they're identifying the correct information and that they're not doing something that's going to further harm the victim after something tragic happens. So that would be an example of my day-to-day role with media, but also ensuring that our finances are in order, and that means a lot of fundraising. So we're a 501c3, so my job is to make sure that at the end of the day we have enough money to do what we do.
I think that it's very important to be able to offer this kind of service. I came from a pretty rough neighborhood growing up, and we didn't know of any agencies that did this kind of thing. And so what we do here, it's more about being able to help that client, being there to advocate for them, to talk through the things that they need to talk through, especially things like counseling, being able to offer that and having people have an outlet for the things that they can't say anywhere else, or that other people may not understand. I think it's really important that we offer the services that we do.
One case that comes to mind that we assisted psychologically was a young woman who was sexually assaulted, who, when we first met her, she was angry, she was worried, she couldn't sleep, she couldn't eat. And I remember her counselor walking through the process so slowly that in the first meeting it was simply, "Can I get you to eat tomorrow? Do you promise me you will eat a meal tomorrow?" And they built from there to the point where the victim had become really a survivor in what I think is a relatively short amount of time. It was a few months, and was able to go back to college, was able to continue with her life in a way that really did feel quite like it did before the crime. And that's one of my favorite stories, because it's representative of being able to find your way back and find your power again, and say, this isn't going to stop me. This horrible experience I had isn't going to keep me from eating and sleeping and these basic human needs that we have, all the way to it's not going to stop me from loving and achieving and being successful in my life. And that's a gift that is really given through agencies like ours that help victims. One that comes to mind from more of an advocacy perspective, we had a client whose son was murdered, and he was wearing a jacket she had bought him when he died. And the police took it for evidence, and they held on to that jacket for years. And she kept calling and saying, "Can I have my son's jacket back? Can I have my son's jacket back?" It seems like such a simple thing, but it's all she wanted was this jacket, because she had bought it for him. It was his high school class jacket, his letter jacket. And she really that was all she wanted. And she called us, and we worked with the police officers and said, "You release it, please." and it was just our little intervention that was able to get back something that was incredibly valuable to her. And it seems like a small thing, but these are the sort of things that really restore hope for the victims and make them feel like there's some semblance of balance that has been restored to their lives.
Why did you do this? Why do you care so much about being a crime victim advocate?
Ah. Why I got into this line of business. I was working in nonprofits, and so I do have a nonprofit management background, but it's obvious that a lot of us who work here would have a personal experience with crime. And about 16 years ago, I was sexually assaulted by two men who attacked me coming out of a gas station in a rural area. And after that happened, I really realized that I didn't understand the world that I lived in. I didn't understand the cruelty of humanity, and I really lost faith in everything following that. It took me a long time physically to recover. I was in a job where I was an executive director at the time, and the people I worked with had no idea how to handle what was happening with me. They had no idea how to work with me. They acted like, I had this strange disease after this had happened to me. I lived in a different city at the time than St. Louis, so I didn't have access to a crime victim advocacy center or something like us to help me. And I realize now what I was missing. And one of those things would be obviously the crisis response, the emotional support of people who just get what you're going through and how alone you feel, and how you, no matter how faultless you were in a crime, you wonder what you did to cause this to happen to you. You lay awake at night wondering why it was you and not someone else. And there's all of those things that you go through that I think people here understand. We get it. And we're ready to help other people understand that that's very normal. I didn't have that. I had $50,000 in medical bills that I had no one to help me with. That's something that we do here. We help people access funds that will pay off medical bills following a crime. There were countless number of friends and family members who didn't understand what was happening to me or how they were supposed to support me. I was engaged at the time, and that fell apart, and we broke that off because of what had happened. And all of those pieces that I had access to an agency that provided me not only counseling for myself and my family, but also counseling free of charge. I didn't make a lot of money. I worked in social services. So that would have been really key to maintaining some of those relationships that instead fell apart and really changed my life. And then I had to move back to St. Louis, which I love now, and I'm glad I'm here, but I didn't live here at the time. And I had to move home because I just didn't have the support I needed where I was. And it showed me what was missing, what people go through to feel that alone and that left behind by the world. And to lose their faith in humanity that way. And it wasn't, I wouldn't say my faith in humanity was fully restored until I started working here. And I realized that I was among people who fully understood what I had been through, and that there is so much hope on the other side. And that it is an experience that happens to you, but not that defines you. So that was my road here. And again, that was about 16 years ago. I've been doing this job for 9 years and hoping every single day that I keep someone from going through the aloneness that I felt in that process.
Julie is simply amazing. She's been a coach, she's been a friend, she's been a boss. She's just simply amazing. You hear her story, you hear what the things that she went through and how she even ended up here. And you already are struck with this sense of, man, this woman is strong. But then just seeing the ways that she can lead people. I stayed at this job mostly because I just love the people that I work with. I love what I do, but I love the people that I work with. And we call her our fearless leader, because that's just what she is. She takes risks and she goes for it, and she's amazing. I've learned so much just by working with her about life, about personal life, about professional life, about life in general. And she's probably one of the most inspirational people I've ever met in my life. And I'm just happy that I get to work with her. I'm happy she gets to be my boss.
This picture, I think, is a really good indicator of the kind of hope that I'm looking for in this community. And what I mean by that is it was taken of 3 young children in St. Louis. They are all wearing bulletproof vests.
But look at their faces. They're having so much fun, and I think it's indicative of the resilience of human nature, that we can live unfortunately among violence, or maybe it's homelessness or hunger, or all of the things that challenge us as human beings, but we can still smile like that, and I love it. So when I'm having a bad day, I look at this picture.